Ever since I landed in JQuat to do that course, I have been asked this question. And it's a question that has never really been fully understood, even by my parents. Most people don't really feel that landscape architecture has a lot of value, yet it actually helps the property value of a property to actually rise, among many other things, by around 15% average. Uhuru is a very interesting case study for landscape architecture. Funny thing because ilifanywa kwa giza, tulikuja tu tukaona matokeo. 70% of the constructions out there, or of the designs that are actually brought to the county, 70% of them are actually done by those TVET guys. It is a matter of us as Kenyans being able to esteem what we are making locally. Number one. Number two, it is also the imperative of the government to be able to support local manufacturing. So I came up with a policy on local manufacturing and how our TVETs can actually, number one, give people the skills directly related to manufacturing. Construction is actually like the hallmark of development in Kenya. My name is Gibson Ngumi-Landscape. I am many things. I am a landscape architect by training. I am also an architectural technician by training, and I am also a teacher, a lecturer actually, by training as well. And I am also all those things in practice, because I work for the State Department for TVET, where I actually do my teaching. I also run a business called Tree Tower Landscapes. That is a consultancy and construction landscaping business basically. I am also a director at Olive School, Kitengela, also another business. I told you I'm also a trained teacher. I did a postgraduate diploma, so that is also a business I am involved in. So basically that is me. Ever since I landed in JQuat to do that course, I have been asked this question. And it's a question that has never really been fully understood, even by my parents. So, a landscape architect, his primary role is to make outdoor spaces, to make them livable, to make them aesthetic, to make them functional. That is the primary role of a landscape architect. So, these outdoor spaces may include anything from streetscapes, parks, hotels and restaurant outdoors, anything outdoor, amphitheaters, anything that has outdoor in its name is the role of a landscape architect. From Uhuru Gardens to Uhuru Park to SGR, where we had landscape architects being involved in stormwater management and other things like that, to Thika Road, where you had landscape architects lining the street. All of these are things that landscape architects do. And the value of a landscape architect is that they not only complement the roles that other designers and other consultants do, they also create environmental value in every single project that they are involved in. Even from the name, I tell someone I am a landscape architect and they are like, kwa hivyo any architecture? And then they're like, I'm like, no, I'm not an architect. I am a landscape architect. So you are landscaping architecture? I'm like, no. It's landscape architect. I have to say this many times. And there are so many other misconceptions rather. First of all, the main misconception is that our role is primarily just landscaping. That's one misconception. As I've told you, the many things that we do both hardscapes and softscapes. Yeah, softscapes being the planted landscapes, hardscapes being the constructed landscapes. We are also into site planning. We can also do site planning, site master planning. We also learn urban design. So the scope of landscape architecture is very huge. Only that in practice, most of the time, we are doing what they are calling landscaping. But in training and in developed countries where at least the profession has a bigger foothold, we are much more involved in projects. Another misconception is that landscaping or landscape architecture rather is an afterthought in a project. Most people come for the landscape architect after they have done everything and now they want you to start. So you get to site and you realize if you were here earlier, maybe some of the things that you are remedying would not have even been problems in the first place, because you've been given maybe a role to remedy something like, or rather you come to a site where you're supposed to do maybe a landscape, and when you observe this house, you can tell that even the thermal comfort is not good, and you're supposed now to remedy it, while you would have helped even to orient the house and do other things like that to reduce the effect of this issue. So that's another misconception. And of course, the other misconception is the value that you bring as a landscape architect. Most people don't really feel that landscape architecture has a lot of value, yet even the value that it brings, even the property value of a properly done landscape, it actually helps the property value of a property to actually rise, among many other things, by around 15% average. So there are so many other things that a landscape architect brings to the table, and that is why the profession should be as respected as any other. Uhuru Park is a very interesting case study for landscape architecture. Funny thing, because ilifanywa kwa giza, tulikuja tu tukaona matokeo. And everyone in the industry was as surprised as the people out there, and were like, okay, this actually shows the hallmark of a landscape architect being involved as it is right now. It's actually, it has all the signs and symptoms that there was a landscape architect there. And it's a good thing, because first of all, even the value that you can see in that park, there are so many things that Uhuru Park now offers. Yeah, it offers very nice recreational spaces. It offers very nice aesthetics to the city, very nice monuments. It has a lot of value in terms of even putting Nairobi out there as the green city in the sun. That would not be the case if we had a concrete jungle at Uhuru Park and other places. So I feel that landscape architecture, in such a project where the landscape architect should ideally be the chief consultant and the principal consultant per se, I feel that the value can be clearly seen. It's not hard to explain to someone why this is why landscape architecture is important. Yeah. The challenge with TVETs, and especially our graduates coming from our TVETs, is one of inclusion into the industry. That is the biggest challenge. Our professions are very highly regulated. Rather, our field is highly regulated, although not all professions in the field are regulated. But the ones that are regulated are the ones that are in most demand, even with TVETs. I can mention two: architecture, civil engineering. Those are very highly regulated fields that are offered at bachelor's level and also at diploma level. So a student who leaves any of these fields coming into the industry, first of all, they will find that by law they cannot practice independently. They cannot draw even a small mansionette, 300 square meters or less. They cannot even draw a sheep pen without without regulatory big guys looking at them. Yeah, they cannot do this without architects. Now, this is another challenge. 70% of the constructions out there, or of the designs that are actually brought to the county, 70% of them are actually done by those TVET guys. So how does this happen? And why is it that they are still not getting that platform? Because if there's a shortage of consultants that they cannot really serve the whole country, then it only makes sense to come and say in law, let these guys be able to practice, but let us put a limit or let us put a cap, for example, in terms of square meters. In South Africa, they practice, but they are given a cap of, I think, 500 square meters. In the UK, they also practice. I'm not sure the cap, but they also have a Chartered Institute of Architectural Technologists. And that Chartered Institute actually registers them, makes them be able to do their practice independent of an architect. The other challenge is, of course, employment. Employment is a challenge everywhere. Not many architects are able to employ. Even if you see a firm of employing 15 people, that is a very big firm in our context. It's a very, very big firm. So if most architects are just working alone or they are working with a secretary, where will these guys get those jobs? So that is why we are saying, give them the chance to employ themselves. Give them the chance to employ themselves. The whole idea behind TVET is that people get skills so that they don't need employment. And if we put other bottlenecks now out here, we get the challenge that we have a large population of unemployed youth that we have trained and we have lied to that they can employ themselves. Then the last challenge, but this one is being worked on by the government, and I will explain why and how. When a TVET graduate amemaliza shule, amekuja ameona, I am not able to practice, I am not able to get employment. So what is next? Let me go to the university and say, and see if I'll be able to get a degree now using my TVET qualification, my diploma also. So if I go to the university, what they will tell me is, we are seeing that you did 3 years, but you have to go back to first year. Regardless of the fact that you've done the same things, you're going to repeat the same communication skills, you're going to repeat the same architectural communication, you're going to repeat everything. So for someone who has come out of the industry, now wanting to go back to school, it becomes a challenge, because that means you have to have some 6 extra years somewhere that you can spare to be able to finish your architecture qualification. So, but there's a policy that is already been validated, and it's waiting cabinet approval. It's called the Kenya Credit Accumulation and Transfer System, and it is being developed by multiple agencies, but the chief agency is what we call the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. And interestingly, this policy is supposed to cover all universities, all colleges. Basically, it covers everything from the transition from KCSE to artisan to diploma to degree, even to higher diploma to masters. It covers that transition, and it actually creates a framework where there are credit transfers when you're coming from one level to another level. So that is that is one policy I think will be able to change how things are going, and it is binding to all education institutions, whether they are universities or colleges. What remains to be seen is whether it will be implemented fully, especially by the universities, because that's where is normally the problem. 10, 12 or so years ago, when I was in college, for our course, we used to go to attachment for every year. We used to go to attachment. So when we go to attachment, when we went for attachment, most of the times I was privileged to go to interior design firms and people in other areas of the construction sector. And you find that for you to do a fit out of a building, 90% of the things that you are using are going to be imported. And by then it was everything from the gypsum panels to granite to even simple things like sinks, every single thing. So you'll find 90% of the things except cement, everything else unapata ni imported. So it's one thing that I have personally taken up as one of the areas I would like to have an impact in, because we cannot be importing desks, we cannot be importing furniture, and if you look at the quality and the craftsmanship, it is equivalent to what we have out there. The likes of Kina Morara, Kina Farmat Furnishers, these are people who are doing the same kind of quality of manufacturing of furniture, just equal to what we are buying at some of these big places I don't want to mention for $500,000. Yeah. So it is a matter of us as Kenyans being able to esteem what we are making locally. Number one. Number two, it is also the imperative of the government to be able to support local manufacturing, even by making sure government offices are furnished and are full of local products. There is something called the 40% rule in procurement, and I don't know whether it is really followed well, but there is something called the 40% local content in procurement rule. I wish that could even be upgraded to 60%. And other incentives like for you to be able to manufacture things like MDF, things like floorboards, you need certain machinery. And the taxes on this machinery, if we could reduce the taxes on this machinery and increase the taxes on imported finished goods, I think that would help local manufacturing, because we are at a point where it is already becoming expensive to import. People used to manufacture locally and then we taxed everything. We killed the industries. Now people started importing. Now we have started taxing the imports. It is becoming more expensive now to import. So it gives us a chance as a country to go back to local manufacturing. Yes. And I think that will work on the cost of construction. It will reduce the cost of construction. So on the issue of local manufacturing, I've done some research. I've gone to some of the industries that are doing the local manufacturing. I've gone to some of the industries that are doing a lot of importing and stuff. And I believe it is very much possible to do this. So I came up with a policy on local manufacturing and how our TVETs can actually, number one, give people the skills directly related to manufacturing in various sectors. And number two, give them the confidence that as they learn, they are actually working, as they do their training, they are actually working in manufacturing facilities, even in those colleges, that will be able to give them that confidence, so that when they leave, they can actually be able to start their own small enterprises out there. And I can say there are so many people in Kenya who are doing various things in manufacturing at various levels, but we need them to be supported in so many ways. I would like to say this, and it makes me very sad, but pending bills is the worst form of corruption plaguing our country, because this is how pending bills come to be. I do a job, I finish that job. When I come to claim my payment, I either have to part with something that is very unreasonable or forfeit that payment. No one in this day and age, no one tells you toa kitu kidogo. They expect you at the back of your mind to know. They frustrate you, and at the end of the day, you are expected at the back of your mind to know this is what this person wants. I've seen people do projects where you've done a project at 1,000,000 shillings, and then someone at procurement is telling you, give me 500,000. Doesn't make sense. And that is why there's a lot of accumulation of pending bills, because people don't want to give bribes. Those who give bribes are even paid before they finish the jobs that they are doing. That is the funny thing about it. And those who don't, even if you finish to perfection, utangangana. So pending bills are actually killing our construction industry. They're actually starving it. If you look at the roads, one of the reasons local contractors are not able to do standard roads is because they know hapa hakuna njia ingine. It is, I look at where I can save money so that I can get something to kick back. you get to a point where in the industry, you get to a point where nobody really cares about the work that you've done. People only care about who you've oiled your hands, whose hands you've oiled rather. Yeah. So I know if I'm a contractor, I've been given a road, and I've been told this road needs to be complete by this time, and there may be 3 stages. At every stage, there are 4 5 people I need to pay. At every stage. So at the end of the day, I start thinking, instead of paying these people, whether I finished the work or not, even if I don't finish the work, if I give them money, they will still pay me. So what happens? You have this problem that has been going around and has been talked about of incomplete projects, where people have been paid, they've done work for one stage, they've been paid even more than that, and then they've abandoned. Yes. And those who go all the way, you find they have not been paid. So this is one form of corruption that I don't see us talking a lot about. Pending bills is really killing our industries, because most people are actually taking loans to be able to finance these projects. So you take a loan with the expectation that once you get this project and you do this work, you're going to be paid and you'll pay that loan back. What is your security? Your house that you're living in. If you don't pay back, what happens? The bank goes with your house. You become actually worse than you were before you did this project. There was a time during the Kibaki era that people actually became rich by doing honest business with government, and I think we need to go back there, because since Uhuru came in, I'm sorry, but there is a problem. The people being paid are only well-connected people. The people who are suffering, there are people now who are actually being impoverished by doing government projects, and I think that has to change. Regarding pending bills in the construction industry, the construction industry is supposed to do a lot for this country, because construction is actually like the hallmark of development in Kenya. If there are no roads, we see the government has not done anything. See, if the government does not construct tangible things that we can see with our eyes, Kenyans normally judge that there's nothing that is happening in this government. So, all the way from roads to hospitals that the counties are now supposed to be doing, to all this cabro that you are seeing NMS was doing in Nairobi, glittering red and other funny colors, all those projects are actually being done or were supposed to be done by the construction industry. And in an ideal economy, these projects should have been bringing money to the industry, and this money trickles down to other areas of the economy. That is how people benefit from the government. But when the government takes, when officials, not even the government, when people in government fail to pay for work that has been done, what happens is that they kill companies, and these companies end up retrenching or releasing their employees, and this is how the economic failure actually cascades down to the lowest person. So that is how actually the construction industry is really affected by the pending bills. I can tell you for sure, a good number of firms are not doing as much work as they used to do before. Another thing actually, because of the pending bills issue, you as a local contractor are much less likely to be paid than a Chinese contractor who is doing a project that is financed by maybe China Exim Bank, because at least they have the backing of their country, which actually financed this project. When you come a local contractor, you just suffer alone, man. That's what happens. So over time, what happens is that the standard of the quality of work of local contractors goes down because of these pending bills. And then the Chinese standard seems to go up, but not because of anything, but because they are able to claim their money, they are able to work, they are able to be paid for what they do. So they have the incentive to actually do work and get paid. So it is actually something that is even killing local industry, local contractors in many ways than just the jobs and the money that goes into the industry. It actually even affects the value that they can give. As a landscape architect, given how the projects are ongoing, You know, actually, this is an issue. The issue of continued installation of hardscapes everywhere. You find someone comes and just puts cabro everywhere in a school, and they are like, I have done a very good job. Clap for me, vote for me for 5 years. Eh? Someone else comes and builds a road like this one, or like Thika Road, and cuts all the trees, and then says, I have done a very good job, Bana. Eh? Like Jubilee used to come and say, the Jubilee government that has gone used to come and say, we have done a very good job. No, na sasa Wayakiwe sasa iko na nini nne, iko na lens nne. But when you go through Wayakiwe right now, as opposed to when you're going through it before, it is so hot. There is something called the urban heat island effect, where the rays from the sun heat hardscapes, solid hardscapes, and bounce back, and they create an atmosphere where there is a lot of hardscape. The general climate is actually less tolerable for people. Is actually, let's say, it becomes much hotter. If you walk around town in some suburbs where there are trees, you find that the climate is good. Hauchomeki na jua bana. But if you walk around town, CBD, kwanza the lower inaitangwa aje, downtown. Ukitembea downtown unachomeka na jua vizuri, because we've cut down the trees. What happens is that urban heat island effect increases, and therefore it becomes actually a detriment to us. Then we now have to look for other ways of air conditioning, which is funny. So as we do our projects, let us also involve landscape architects, so that we can actually get, yes, we can do the cabro, we can do all those projects, but we can do them in a way that they are actually giving us full value, and they are not affecting the environment in a way that actually forces us again to use more money to remedy this. Yeah.